Yes, yes, it is fall. It is FMadd2 at the second quarter. The fall season is full in swing. It is October now. It is October and the leaves are flush with autumn gold. The first flashes of it anyway. And it is just now cooling. It is just now cooling for the first time. And one might go out in a jacket. Shirt sleeves will suffice, but a jacket is just right. A jacket is just right in these early mornings and in these cooler nights. Summer is still fresh in our minds, but we are thinking of cooler things. We are thinking of apples, and we are thinking of leaf piles. We are thinking of the leaf piles that we would jump to when we were children. And we were thinking of the leaf piles that we would rake when we were older. Yes, yes, yes. How are we doing? How are we doing? We doing all right? Good. Let's talk about continuity. This is a thought I've been having, a thought I've been trying to articulate. Let's talk about continuity. What do I mean when I say continuity? That's a good question. It means like the continuity, not necessarily the continuity of one's own life, because one's own life has a continuity, but I've talked about this sort of thing forever. I mean the continuity of a place. I mean the continuity of a room, the continuity of a building, the continuity of a family, of a surrogate family. Continuities. One might say traditions. One might say cultures. Let's talk about continuities. I've been thinking about continuities lately. Part of this is I'm taking a class on empire, and empire involves subjugation, and the evolution of an empire involves the absorption, perhaps the downplaying, perhaps the acceptance of another culture, but these cultures are made to accommodate. These cultures change, there are influences. I've been thinking about continuity because continuities are changing in my own life. Continuities are failing. I'm thinking about continuity because I'm becoming aware of new lives and of new ways of living and of new rooms, different rooms that have their own histories. I've been thinking about these continuities. My friend and I went to a record store today, and I got a brace of CDs. He got some vinyl records for a project he's doing in a class of his. I've been thinking about continuities. He tells me, the record store is a product of, an older time, of a previous generation. He reminds me, and these things are ending. I haven't done an episode on record stores because what am I supposed to say that hasn't been said already? I love record stores, but they're dying. I'm afraid that they're dying. And maybe they aren't. No one expected the vinyl culture to come back, but it has. There are new people being indoctrinated into this continuity, this philosophy, this awareness of these giant, these 12-inch records. But they never stopped making these records. They've been making these records the whole time. They haven't been selling as many, but they've been making them. You can go to a Barnes & Noble now, and you can buy vinyl records. In the bookstore on my campus, there are vinyl records a body can purchase. I was not tempted because I do not own a turntable, but there are these rooms, these physical rooms, these metaphorical rooms that have histories. And if I sit in this, this idealized record store, it has a history. If I sit in this theoretical record store, it has a history. And I don't mean just like a list of bills of sale of receipts. I'm talking culture, the culture that has gone through it, the way people used to look at records and the way people look at records now, and the records they sold and the trends that were reflected in those records. There are record stores been, open for decades. Huge, sprawling warehouses that used to carry 12 inches, and now they carry CDs, except they've gone back to 12 inches. Side by side. And there are upstarts that are hip and trendy that tap into this consciousness of something that a borrowed experience, as it were. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean when I say that? You have to understand, because you are aware of rooms like that too. I don't know what those rooms are, but you go to a restaurant for 20 years, you know? You go to a restaurant for 20 years and you know the people and you've watched their menu change. You go to a family reunion and you see these people that have been alive for decades and coming to these family reunions, and they'll go to next year's family reunion. They'll be slightly different, but they'll still be there. The family will grow or the family will contract, because that's what families do. People die, people are born, people are married, and things shift around them. I think about these continuities, and I think about what happens when continuity is interrupted. Some things just end. Record stores, I'm afraid that they're dying. And when they die, I'm afraid that they don't come back. You miss a couple years of your family reunion, the family is still there, but you go to a record store and it's gone. And it's gone. You have to find a new room. You build a surrogate family in, some foreign city, friends and compatriots and lovers and ex-lovers. And what happens when that falls apart? Because things fall and you leave rooms and people, they lose time, they lose track. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? I've been thinking about, I used to live in a building and now I live in a different building. And a lot of my neighbors moved with me, but I don't think of them the same way as I used to. Because we're in a new space and there are new neighbors and we have new ways of living together, new methods of living together. And that's a strange thing. It's a strange thing to have a rhythm with friends and neighbors and colleagues, and have that rhythm upended, but to still be with the same neighbors, the same friends, the same colleagues. There are continuities between person and person, but the room they are in has changed. I've been thinking about these continuities. I've been thinking about these changes. Because we might, I'm at college. And one might say, oh, well, in 4 years, all the people that live in this building are going to be somewhere else. And that's true. 5 years from now, there will be no memory of me. But the people, what is left behind now is fundamentally different than what was left behind before. The room we are leaving things in has changed, and the things that we leave have shifted to reflect that. This is the room that I live in now. It's not the same room that it was. And I wish that it were, and I spent a long time thinking that I could bring something that might never have existed, but that I perceived from one room to another, but that room was so small. And this room is so big and there's so much flooding into it. And it's strange. It's strange. I've only recently come to terms with the fact that this is not that room. I knew it on some level, but I didn't know what that meant. I wasn't aware of a break in my continuities. I've been thinking about this a lot. I have thoughts. I've been in other buildings lately. I've been speaking to other surrogate families that have stronger and stranger continuities than what I am familiar with. And these are uninterrupted, and I'm afraid of what will happen to them. Because buildings grow old. And when we leave a building, we leave something behind. But when the building is gone, all that disappears. There's so much continuity in these places. There's so much history in these spaces, but record stores are closing, and not every restaurant makes it. And maybe they'll open a new restaurant in some other location, but it's different, and you know it's different. And these new upstart record stores will never be as old as what was. The records they sell in Barnes & Noble are not the records that were sold. The record stores will never... I don't know, I've been thinking about this a lot. And it's a hard thought to articulate. But when the room that one resides in vanishes, it's more than just a room. It's everything that the room is left. Everything that is left in the room. You can only carry so much of it with you.